Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This time, we're building a new bumper for the Blazer. And this time, I've done some planning. So, I built a bumper already a few years ago, but there's a few things that I've learned since then and a few things that I want to change. First was the pivot where the hinge goes for the tire carrier. I had it way far out over here, which left it pretty unsupported. I'm going to move that hinge a little closer right here. Still swing away far enough to clear the tailgate, but be closer to the frame so that the bumper itself doesn't flex. And I'm also starting, instead of with some rectangular tubing, I'm starting out with some heavy-duty 3/8 plate, or 3/16 plate that I picked up from the steel yard as an offcut. I've got two bits of that. That should hopefully be good enough. So yeah, I got to basically mark some of this stuff out, cut it, and then get started. So there's the start. As you can see, cut the plate out, drilled out my holes, measured carefully, and then added that top bit. The big difference on what I'm doing with this guy is you'll notice this top piece is sloping. That's because when the tailgate opens, it comes really close. So the factory bumper has that slope to it. My old one went kind of off like this. And so what that did is meant that it touched the tailgate. Not much, just barely touched it. So I didn't really like that, so I decided to change that. We've also got this guy angled down in here. And this whole bumper looks a little bit too beefy, a little too tall. So what I'm actually going to be doing is cutting along right here, just below that bolt. And then what we're going to do is fold that end up so we've got a lip on the bottom. And that's kind of the plan with that. But before we do any of that, I've got to take this outside, unbolt everything, and we're going to clean up all this rusty scale. That way we've got something clean to weld onto. So I jumped ahead a little bit, got this all tacked together, added some bits on the side, so a little bit more protection, and to kind of make it look a little bit more like the stock bumper as far as the general shape. Then I'm starting working on the swing arm. Basically just cut some tabs, drilled a 1/2-inch hole in the middle. And then what I actually did for this is, so this is some 2-inch rectangular tubing. It was left over from the workbench legs. And I took a wrist pin out of an engine. So this is an old wrist pin. It's what holds the piston to the connecting rod. It is basically, I drilled some big holes through this guy, placed everything nice and square, fixtured it up on the welding table, and then just welded around the edges. So now it's nice and secure, and I have a almost perfect 1/2-inch hole that's sleeved all the way through. So that's going to be a nice, strong, good quality hinge. And you can see, putting some weight on it, it should hold. I'm going to obviously brace that a little bit more. And once I finish weld everything, it'll be super strong. But what we're going to do is work on that guy. And the most important thing is, you'll notice the hinge this time is inside the tailgate. So what that means is I need, there's basically, I need to find out where here I can't go past, because when this opens, if I have like a big cross coming off right here, big diagonal, or like my tire lives right there, when I open the tailgate, it's going to hit. So my main goal with this is to not do that. So what we're going to do is, I could do some measuring, but the easiest thing to do is just drop the tailgate and make a mark. Alright, so I got my square. I'm going to reference it there and draw a line. Alright, so I absolutely can't go past this line. We're going to go a couple inches past. I'm going to say right there. What that's going to do is let me have this open just a little bit. That way I don't have to open it all the way when I need to open the tailgate. So that's going to be my limit. So now we can start planning out the where the spare tire lives. So I'm going to be super scientific with this. I've got my my square. I'm going to mark it against the line we just made, and then I'm going to go. Really want to go about 2 inches away from there, because this tire is a little bit smaller than what I'm dealing with. This is like a 31. I have 33s right now, and there's always a chance I might go for some 34s, 35s. So I want to have a couple extra inches of room. Bear in mind we still have a little bit of wiggle room with that line anyway. But so that's going to give me, yeah, we'll go about a little less than a hand's width away from that line. And then I'm going to follow this up to the middle. Right there is going to be where our center line is going to be for the upright. And then as far as the upright goes, we'll see, I want it, yeah, probably about yay high, maybe a little bit higher, so a little bit taller than what this is, so maybe up here. So that is about a full hand's width longer than just the radius. I'll also compare with the old one and see if there's any difference. But yeah, so I'm going to cut the upright, weld it in, and then we'll start laying out everything else. I do want to have a mount for a high lift jack and preferably a jerry can. So as long as we can fit those, I think we'll be good. Alright, we got a little more progress. I've got the vertical bit tacked in. Then I made this guy. This is going to be our spare tire carrier. So all I did was take a plate, scribe a line down the middle, hold it up to the inside of the wheel, and then just marked out, while keeping that line in the center, marked out where my two lug nuts go. And I left this a little long intentionally because eventually we're going to be 1-ton swapping this, and I'm going to have some 8 lug wheels, so that's going to go about right here. But for now, what we did is just simply mark it for my 6 lug Chevy bolt pattern, I stuck a piece of pipe in the middle, finish welded that in. It's pretty bloopy, but meh. I had to do it in sections. I couldn't comfortably do a full circle. Welded that on. Then we finish welded it onto the back. And then now we're still kind of mocking things up. So I've got it tack welded to that vertical upright. So I've got 4 tacks, one in each corner here, as well as down there. And then we can kind of test and see how this does. But yeah, that's it coming along. Pretty much my next thing is going to be to figure out a latch, confirm that this is actually good, and then we'll start doing our diagonals. Alright, so the next thing we got to do is actually put some support on this bar, because it needs some support on that end to keep it from flopping while it's secure. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mark a line from where the bottom of this touches. Then we're going to trace that over to that side and also in the middle just for good measure. And then we're going to add some little shelves to hold it in place. So our mark, which is right there, just happens to be pretty much dead nuts on 3 inches. And I swear, I just eyeballed all this, so I had no idea where that was going to land. So I am super happy, because that's an easy measurement to transfer to the rest of this piece. So now we're going to make a couple marks at 3 inches right here. And a little more in the middle. And there we go. So now we've got some rough marks for the height. So now we're going to figure out kind of the placement. So we're going to want it pretty much right here. So this is our edge, and somewhere in line right there. So somewhere there is where we're going to have our bit that sticks out. We also want one in line with the spare tire mount. So somewhere in the dead middle of those two. So we've got our marks. Let's work on the actual piece that is going to be our brace. And that piece is going to probably be a similar piece of rectangular tubing. But we'll cut it in a nice little bevel towards the edge, just to make it nice, look nice and pretty. And finally, what we're actually going to do is I have this bit of cutting board material, some thin, kind of like, I don't know, 1/8 inch or so thick cutting board. Got it cheap at Walmart. That is going to be a nice slick surface for this to slide on, so it doesn't kind of scrape and squeak when we're closing it. So I've got my little braces welded, tacked in. This is going to be the guy that holds it up at the edge. This is the guy in the middle. I'm going to cut some rectangles out of this cutting board material. And it's going to live right there. We're going to screw it on with just some kind of countersink screws, so that way it's flush. Then we'll have something nice and slippery for the tire carrier to swing on. I've also worked on the latch. So I've come up with this sort of situation. I've got a piece of angle iron that I trimmed. I've got my hook right there. Then when this guy comes in, that's going to slip on there and latch in like so. The next thing I'm going to do is, because while this does have a safety catch, so it can't just come undone, I don't necessarily trust just having one latch, so we're going to put a pin that goes down right here, just like I did on the other one. And it's going to go from a mount up here. Pin's going to go through this piece of angle and then into this piece of box section. And that way this will all be in double shear and it can't lift out or jump out. So that'll be the safety catch, and then this is what keeps everything locked in and keeps it from rattling around. So yeah, we're gonna jump on that. So I got this guy all mounted up. You can see we got a double shear, we got the bracket itself, then we've got the part on the bumper, and then we've got the part on the swing arm. So that is doing its thing, nice and secure. I could drive this around without even having this guy attached, and it's not going to fall open. But we still want this guy attached because then it quiets it up. So yeah, I was gonna screw this in, but this is thin wall and I can't tap it, and I'm not gonna have any access behind because I'm gonna be putting a tube over this. So I just tack welded it, plug welded it in through the 4 bolt holes, and then on each corner just to make sure. And then basically all I did was line this up, circle it, center punch it, and then just drill it out. I am a little bit close to this edge. Hopefully that doesn't become a problem. If it does, I have enough up travel room to where I can just take a big big washer and just weld a big washer around here, or extend it with a little bit of thicker material. But for now, I think that's doing good. Next thing I'm going to do is start tying to this guy. And thinking about other mounts. So I do want to mount the jerry can to this arm, but I don't quite know how I'm going to do it, and I might put that off. But instead of going at a diagonal like I did last time, I'm just going to put a single piece of tube that runs right here. That'll strengthen a little bit, and it'll also give me a nice platform. And then with that platform, I can try to figure out how to mount a jerry can like behind where the tire sits. Then on this side, we are going to do something diagonal, probably. But what I'm also going to do is I want to mount my high lift jack right here, attached to that post. But before we do that, I'm going to add the piece there. Then we're going to figure out the high lift situation, and then we'll see what we can do about our diagonal brace, where that'll fit in. Alright, so that bar is mostly welded in. 2 beads there and just some tacks over there. Got the spare tire kind of mocked in place, and this is what I'm going to do with that high lift jack. So I made a little box for it. This is just some angle, and what we're going to do is weld it right there, a little bit higher. Weld this to about right here, and then we'll figure out how to mount the top end. But basically, this is going to be a plate that it sits in. Then we're going to have the bar coming across to here, and we'll figure out some sort of mechanism to basically bolt the jack into. Probably just a stud coming off and a nut. So that's the plan. So gonna just keep getting at it. So there we go. Not only did I do that, but I added the brace, and this is how we're going to actually attach it. I've got another old wrist pin welded to this guy with a bolt through it through the hole. So between that and that, this should be pretty solidly attached. Once I tighten this down, I may make another little tab that comes up and pokes through another one of these holes just to make sure. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. In fact, I think it's good enough to the point where we can take this whole thing off and then just start finish welding it on the bench. Alright, got it all welded up. Took a couple extra passes right here just because it was kind of cutting in pretty bad on the bottom side. So did ran a few more passes just to fill it in. The rest of it's plenty strong. And I've also got it clamped onto this piece of C-channel with some little wedges. Point of that is just to keep it from warping because it started already. Basically, when you heat up this section, it's going to want to bow like this when it cools. So clamp it to this guy with a little bit of wedge. Tighten it down so that it bows in this direction. Then when you heat it up for welding, and then release the two clamps, it should spring back nice and straight. So now the next step is going to be to clean it up, grind it down, smooth it all out, then we can paint it. So there we go, splashed a couple coats of paint on the bumper. It's definitely a little drippy, but it should be fine. I started out with some kind of rusty metal primer in black, in a flat black, and then moved up to my favorite Rust-Oleum Professional, that stuff in the silver can. It dries fast and it usually works pretty good, but it is way too cold in the garage right now to be painting. I'm just impatient, so I might touch those drips up later. But for now, I just want to get this thing back on the truck. And for the record, it's allegedly a little above 40 in the garage. It's a high of like 28 today, so it's nice in the sun, but it's cold. All right, there we go. Bumper has been painted and remounted onto the truck. I've added my nylon washer down there for smoothness bearing action. We've got the toggle clamp right there. We've got our safety catch just in case. Tire carrier, and I've got the high lift jack mounted right there. And I actually found the correct length bolt to put a spare lug nut on there, so I figured that'd be a good thing to do. That way, if I ever lose a lug nut, I've got a spare, and I can just take that and put it inside if I have to. And of course, it hinges open nicely. And I've got my little bits of cutting board material there to keep everything nice and smooth. The only thing I haven't done just yet is I haven't put my license plate bracket back on there, but that'll be pretty easy. Just a couple screws and then just connect the wire. And then she'll be road legal again. So yeah, there we go. It's pretty much ready to go. All right, that's going to be it for today. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.